This is September 5th, 2012. I'm Donna Van Meter with DefiantForYou.com and for Flagship Radio Network. Today I received a letter from incarcerated soul, political prisoner Daniel Riley. Daniel Riley is currently being held at the Terre Haute facility in Indiana. This particular letter pertains to the matters that unfolded on June 7th of 2007 when federal agents opened fire on the unarmed Daniel Riley while he was visiting the Ed and Lane Brown residency in Plainfield, New Hampshire. Donna, it was heartwarming to hear from you today. Just a brief correspondence to pass along some helpful, innocent information. Included, you will find the enemy's use of force reports, the UFRs. They created after they attempted to murder me. These reports, Mertz and Allen's, were fabricated. They lie by stating that they shot at me with less than lethal force, the 37mm launcher, but yet have failed to produce a single document connecting either of them to the certification qualification training, nor issuance of a 37mm launcher. By comparison, the enemy who tasered me has produced his training and issuance document. Buchanan tasered me. His UFR statement that he tasered me is corroborated by his USM Form 333. Mertz and Allen's UFR statement say that they shot at me with a 37mm with KO1, less than lethal rounds, but failed to collaborate it with the USM Form 333, meaning that it is a bold-faced lie. After spending $10,000, I was able to obtain the weapon receipts of the actual weapons Mertz and Allen's carried that day on June 7th of 2007. I've included those documents here. Their actual weapons were the Glock pistol and the M4, a short M16. And that they each shot at me with their M4s. I've been saying for 4 years that they shot at me with an M16, never wavering because the truth does not waver. This proves beyond any credible debate that they were carrying an M4 and shot at me with it. The USM Form 333s prove this. There is no Form 333 form for a 37mm launcher, which means that it was not issued that day, because if it was, there would be a paper trail. What does this mean? It means that they used unlawful excessive force, and they were attempting to cover it up from the public and the jury. I specifically asked numerous times for the weapon receipts, the USM Form 333, prior to the trial. The enemy admitted that they had it, but refused to turn it over even after the court ordered it. You see that the weakness in their case was if unlawful excessive force is proven to the jury, that our reactions to it became lawful, and the marshals are no longer within the scope of their official duties. Therefore, their whole case falls apart very quickly. This is exactly why they refused to give me the weapons receipts. They knew it would prove our innocence, and is a Brady violation that I've raised on my 2255. Besides the UEF used on June 7th, they used unnecessary excessive force on July 28th and 29th of 2007 when the marshal shot up the property. That is why Old Buck, aka Jim Hobbs' testimony is very important. He was there that night, proving that the UEF to the jury was crucial to win an acquittal. That is why the enemy did every dirty trick to stop it from getting to the jury. Attorney Bounds and Nurkunis and Scally were all complicit in helping the enemy to keep the UEF out of the trial. I raised the UEF specifically 14 times pre-trial as being my defense. Why? Because it was the truth. The defense attorneys knew it was the winning defense, but avoided it like the plague. They did not want to bite the hand that feeds them. In short, these documents proved unnecessary excessive force was used, a cover-up ensured, and our innocence. Coupled with the testimony of the shootout on the 28th and 29th, the helicopter assault, the UEF becomes a fact, and all of our reactions to it became lawful. In a self-defense capacity, that is, because we reasonably believed lives were in immediate danger. According to the First Circuit's pattern jury instruction 5.04 on self-defense, we would have met both prongs in order to have the jury instructed on self-defense, once the unnecessary excessive force was objectively shown to the jury. This instruction would have made the prosecution's case almost impossible to get a guilty verdict. Besides, the other instructions, like culpable state of mind and the marshals being outside the scope of their official duties, would have been an acquittal for sure. P.S. A Brady versus Maryland violation due process is the violation these documents prove. I specifically asked for USM Form 333, the weapons receipt. See the trial docket numbers 294 and 299. These documents would have broken the back of the enemy's case against us. It was all lies. I just finished reading the letter that I received from Daniel Riley. He has included in this correspondence documents pertaining to 3 U.S. Marshals, Joe Buchanan, Jeff Mertz, and Michael Allen. Now, the documents pertaining to the use of force reports by Michael Allen and Jeff Mertz are fabricated, lying about the particular weapon that was used and discharged on the June 7th incident. I'll start with the documents by the one Joe Buchanan that tasered Danny Riley. On June 6, 2007, the United States Marshal Service Special Operations Group was in the Plainfield, New Hampshire area to execute an arrest warrant for Ed and Elaine Brown. Deputy Joe Buchanan was part of a 5-man blocking team that was in place to provide security and possible arrest of fugitives. On the 6th of June 2007, the SOG snipers observed Ed Brown in and around his residence with a semi-automatic handgun. On the 6th of June, Ed never ventured away from his residence. As a result, the arrest team did not effect the arrest. The SOG elements were then pulled from their position and staged at the SOG command post. On the 7th, SOG elements were again in position to execute arrest warrants for Ed and Elaine Brown. Approximately at 8 a.m., sniper elements reported that a subject was coming down the driveway with a dog. The blocking element was not able to see the subject clear enough to make a positive identification. As the subject walked by, the blocking team remained in position, ready to assist the arrest team on command. At approximately 8:30, the blocking team was given the command to block the subject's escape to the house. The blocking team then moved into position along the driveway. Commands were given to the subject to get down on the ground. The subject did not comply with the commands given. A command was given to get down again with no response. The USM Buchanan at the time deployed the taser for one cycle on the subject. The subject then was compliant with the commands given and then taken into custody. The subject, later identified as Daniel Riley, was then transported to the SOG medical personnel without further incident. This document. And it's signed down there to clarify who it was. It was Buchanan. The use of force report for Joe Buchanan. Entry date, that's when he entered into duty. He's been a U.S. Marshal since 2003. His, district actually is, I'm not sure, I'm looking for it. This is a little bit different than the others. But it pretty much says that his weapons, the officer's weapons that day, was a taser Model 26, service issued, and it's signed and reviewed by Kessler, E. Kessler. And that was signed on actually June 13th, 2007. So there we go. That's what their little use of force incident report looks like. And that's once again Joe Buchanan's. Then he was also given a weapons qualification and familiarization record, authorization to use personally owned weapons. Now, this would be what is called the receipt that Danny refers to throughout his letter. You could see that Joe was holding his primary handgun, which is a Glock 22, USMS owned. He had a rifle carbine, Colt M16, and that was also a USMS owned weapon. And it's a weapon inspection, which is on here, a holster inspection, even has body armor inspection, and training certification by USM Marshals instructor, I should say, which is AR-15 Colt SMG. It's got a little check mark in there. And the authorizing official is Walter Sanborn, Deputy Commander. And that actually took place in May, I believe, May 21st of 2007. Once again, this is a report, kind of record of training done by Joe Buchanan. It says up here, where it lists the weapons that he was trained to use, instructed, just like the other taser. And here is the projectile stun gun report, authorization to carry. And this is, the interesting thing about this is the above named operational employee has, and it's signed by an S.A. Bartlett. Joe Buchanan's name is actually scribbled out, which I find very interesting. But it does say the make and model, Taser X26 M26, and it's certified. And that was certified on the 20th of May. And it's got Joe's name up here. So, got that. And here's the discrepancy that I was talking about down here, where Joe's name is scratched off and Bartlett's name is actually in place there. And here is the date, I believe. Yes, the 22nd on this one. Now, mind you, if you refer to the tactical field guide or field manual from that day that this operation took place, they were pretty much not going to arrest Ed and Elaine Brown. They had full intentions to actually going in and murdering them. Okay, time to move on. On June 6, 2007, the United States Marshal Service Special Operations Group was in the Plainfield area to effect the arrest of Ed and Elaine Brown. Deputy Marshal Jeff Mertz was part of an 8-man arrest team that was to make the physical arrest or assassination. On June 6 of 2007, the SOG snipers observed Ed Brown in and around his residence with a semi-automatic handgun tucked in his waistband on his right side. On the 6th of 2007 of June, the arrest element did not have the opportunity to arrest Brown as he stayed close to his residence. On the afternoon of the June 6, 2007, the SOG elements pulled out of their arrest positions. On the 7th of June 2007, SOG was again in position to effect the arrest, aka assassination, of Ed and Elaine Brown. At approximately 8 a.m., Sierra Element 1 SOG sniper team reported that the subject was coming down the driveway with his dog. As the subject got closer, it was determined that it was neither of the wanted subjects. Now, let's just make that clear. It was neither of the wanted subjects. I also have posted in the past the Marshall field logs that from that day, the activities of this Sierra 1 SOG sniper group, and it's pretty damning. With the arrest team already in position, the dog began to show interest in the location of the arrest team, which drew the white male subject's attention. While looking at our position with the white male subject, he asked if someone was turkey hunting in that area. The white male subject then began advancing on the arrest team's covert position. At that point, DUSM Mertz identified himself as a deputy U.S. Marshal and ordered the subject not to move. Let's keep that in mind, especially when we go to review the video footage of that day, of this particular incident. Let me repeat that. At that point, the DUSM Mertz identified himself as a DUSM and ordered the subject not to move. I guess it's because it's much more difficult to hit a moving target that you are ordered to sniper. The subject turned and began running down the lane towards the house. He was running. As he was running, he began yelling, unknown what he was yelling, to the people remaining at the house. Actually, according to Danny Riley, he was not yelling at the house so much as he was telling the snipers that was about to open fire on him that he was an unarmed subject. Unarmed. Begging and pleading for his life, not to be shot at. At this point, DUSM Mertz felt that the white male subject was going to compromise the mission and put the SOG team in danger. The DUSM Mertz then fired one KO-1 less lethal round at the subject's legs while he was running. The KO-1 round missed the subject, and another SOG team was able to take the subject into custody before he altered the occupants of the house, or alerted, not altered, before he alerted the occupants of the house. End of report. Mertz, Jeff. And there is the falsified statement of the events by Jeff Mertz. The KO1 round, lethal round, less than lethal round, was not certified. He was not certified to use any such thing, and in fact, he was certified to use and utilize an M16 and an M4. But here's the other falsified document, the use of force report, stating that he used a 37mm service-owned as issued against Danny Riley. And here it is, black and white, the falsified one that they try to submit, or refuse to even submit, into the discovery. Here is the actual receipt that this particular individual was using and carried on that day to carry out that botched raid. This is the weapons qualification and familiarization record, authorization to use personally owned weapons. The receipt that the gentleman trained, the weapons that he trained to use that day. Mertz, DSUM, District 30, out of Des Moines, Iowa. Primary handgun qualification, Glock 22, 40 caliber, with a 4.5-inch barrel length. And it's got a serial number here. And the third weapon that he had, because he had several, it looks like, that day, he trained with the Colt M4, .223, with a 10 to 12-inch barrel length, government issued. I guess the Glock was his own. And then it goes on to say that the ammunition was used. And it gives that. The qualification level, expert, for the 40 cal. And it shows his score, how he did on that particular training exercise. The federal 223, or the M4 that he used that day, shows his score, and he's a sharpshooter level. And it goes on to talk about the weapon inspection, the holster inspection, the authorizing official, Walter Sanborn. And this, I guess, was Exhibit X in the trial. Well, actually just says Exhibit X. I'm going to assume this was not even submitted to the trial. Danny had to pay $10,000 just for this and other documents to prove that they did not use a 37mm non-lethal round weapon at the event of June 7th, 2007. Here you go. I'll leave this up here for a second so y'all can take and look at this. Like I said, I will have these posted, which will endanger my well-being, of course. Anything I usually post does get me death threats. And this is another, piece of paperwork explaining the same thing. Got 2 copies of it. The M4 and the 22 model Glock that Jeff used that day. These 2 gentlemen, actually all the individuals there at Ed and Lane Brown's, should be held accountable that went in to, raid them with the intentions of pretty much murdering Ed and Lane Brown. So that deals with Jeff. Now this is Michael Allen's report. On June 6, 2007, the U.S. Marshal Service Special Operations Group, SOG, was tasked with the arrest of Ed and Lane Brown in Plainfield, New Hampshire. Deputy U.S. Marshal Michael Allen was assigned as a member of an 8-man arrest team. The DUSM Allen's primary responsibility was to provide a less than lethal force option during the arrest. On June 6, 2007, SOG snipers observed Ed Brown around his house with a handgun tucked into his waistband. Ed Brown was not arrested because he did not leave the immediate vicinity of his residence. Later that day, DUSM Allen and his team departed the area. On June 7th of 2007, the arrest team was inserted into the area near the Browns' residence. At approximately 8 o'clock a.m., the SOG snipers reported that the white male was walking down the driveway near the arrest team's position. The subject, later identified as Daniel Riley, was accompanied by a large white dog. Let me insert here. Zoe, the German Shepherd, was not a large white dog. It was a German Shepherd. Looked like a normal German Shepherd. Yeah. Anyway, we all know what a German Shepherd looks like. As Riley approached the arrest team's position, he stated, "What are you doing, buddy? Turkey hunting?" At that time, Danny was approximately 10 feet away from the DUSM Allen's position of concealment. Riley continued to show interest in what he believed was a person in the woods. It was unknown to DUSM Allen at the time what Riley was looking at, only that it was near the arrest team's position. Allen continued to maintain his position of concealment until Riley ordered his dogs to go get him. See, there's conflicting reports in the 2 last reports here, this one and Mertz, about what unfolded quickly after, or quickly before them firing at him. Allen could not see Riley and did not believe, DUSM Allen could not see Riley and did believe it was possible that Riley may be armed. As the dog and Riley entered the tree line, DUSM Jeff Mertz, who was lying immediately to the left of Allen, stood up and began yelling commands to Riley. DUSM Allen immediately stood up and pointed his Sage 37mm at Riley, who immediately turned and began running and yelling towards the Browns' house. Fearing that Riley would alert one of the Browns and compromise the sniper's elements surrounding the residence, DUSM Allen fired one KO-1 less lethal round at Riley's legs. The round did not impact Riley, who was arrested by another SOG element positioned closer to the residency. And that is by Michael Allen's testimony there, paper testimony. Now, another falsified one, of course, because there's no clear indication that they trained with this KO-1 less than lethal round 37mm weaponry. Here is the use of force report by Michael Allen from the duty station California, Southern California in San Diego. This pretty much says that he used the Sage 37mm service issued, which is all bullshit. The falsified document that goes along with that BS report. Here is the actual receipt, which is the weapons qualification and familiarization record, authorization to use personally owned weapons. He had quite a few himself here. Primary handgun, secondary handgun, and rifle carbine SMG. Now, the primary handgun was a Glock 22 40 caliber, issued property by the U.S. Marshal Service, government issued. His own personal, I guess, or no, this one's also owned by the USMS. Secondary was a Colt 45. And then the other one that they fired at Danny was a 40 or M4, government issued, and it goes on to say Winchester 45 caliber, federal .223, and it shows the scores and everything, the ammunition used, brand, caliber, weight, type, blah 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 blah, and says if it had optics, the Winchester 45 caliber did not. The federal other one did, and it shows the score they tested for, trained with for that particular scenario. Weapons inspection, holster inspection, all this. So this actually proves in May 22nd of 2007, they trained with the intentions of murdering those at the Ed and Lean Brown residence for the June 7th, 2007 raid, which Danny bravely botched. I will be posting these along with numerous other documents, and hope that this helps Danny, Jason Gerhardt, and of course my better half, Serena Gonzalez, and filing the 2255s which they are seeking new trials for. My name is Donna Van Meter, and this has been brought to you by DefiantForYou.com and Flagship Radio Network.